Hello, welcome back again for the next in our look at the Vigny cane system. So everything we've been looking at so far, very much working off the same system, guard high, and we're working constantly to try and hit our opponent with multiple successive, quick and accurate strikes, because we don't necessarily have a lot of power behind it. So what am I going to look at tonight? Well, so far we've looked at most of the main techniques, but what I want to look at is how we get past our opponent's cane. If my opponent's guard is up, and my guard is up, if my opponent does absolutely nothing and I go to attack him, I'm still going to walk onto his cane. So I need ways of getting past my opponent's cane to be able to actually hit them. And there are three main ones, and this is, I think, pretty much universally true of any armed combat. These same three exist. So I'm going to go through them very quickly. The first of them is the beat. I'm going to use brute force to move that cane aside. Okay? So there are multiple versions I can do this, depending on how strong I think my opponent is. If I think my opponent is actually quite weak, what I might do is try to get the tip of my cane past their cane, and then use a flick to knock that point offline. So I'm sneaking in past, and then just using a contraction of my wrist to bring the cane across in there. And then once I've done that, I'd like to spread it back up and turn that into a thrust. Because from there, there's not really enough to make a cut worth doing. So it's likely to be a thrust, but it means from here I can get in and hit him without his cane being in the way. So that's one option that I can look at. Option number two, if I think he's a bit stronger, I can use my mullet, which we looked at in the very first week. So from here, I use that, what would be getting into the parry position, to take the cane out of the way and strike on the way through. If I think he's built like a tree trunk and that he ain't ever going to move, the third option I've got is actually to deliver a cut into their cane, and there is no way that is staying online. But from there, I've got to look at what my options are. I can turn that into a thrust, or turn around and come back in with a head strike. So it's going to either be on, or it's going to be on, depending on where I feel most comfortable at the time. So those are beats, physically moving it out of the way. Option number two is I can feign. And by that I mean I pretend I'm going to attack one part of the body, but I don't. So if I'm here and I do this, I've not actually committed my strike, but my body has moved as if I am, and as such my opponent has parried against the strike that he expects to come in. But I've not committed to it, so it's very easy for me to turn my hand over and finish that strike on a different line. So if I was against the camera, I feign it on this side, but then the cut comes in the completely opposite direction. And there's multiple ways I can do that. I could do it on starting high, and once they've seen it, drop low to get underneath my opponent's guard. So I can use that high-low, I can use one side of the body to the other. I can come in with a headshot, and that opens up potentially access to the arms. There's multiple ways I can do that. But basically, I'm going to launch an attack, they're going to parry, and in the process of parrying it, open up their body to actually get hit. Option number three is that I'm going to invite him to hit me. And there's two ways of doing that. I should say, I invite him to hit me in a way that I know what he's going to do. So then I can react to it straight away. So there are two ways I can do this. One is, if you bring your guard on, if I have my point offline. So if I move from here to say somewhere like, let me think this through, if I move to somewhere like here, my point is no longer in the way. There is nothing to stop my opponent hitting me, and I would say 90% of the time it's coming down as a headshot or as a shot into the side of the neck, because that is the natural way people move. So I'm waiting for that to happen. I'm going straight up into my head parry and taking a strike back into my opponent. But because I know it's coming, I can react to it much quicker. What's the OODA loop thing? You know this better than I do. But essentially, there's a process you go through where you observe something, process that information, make a decision, and then act on it. I can cut out most of those steps because I know what's happening. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah. I'll let you do a video on this at some point. So as soon as I see him coming in from the strike, I can ignore all the thinking part and go straight into action because I've made him do the attack. The other option is I can mess up in a way that he can't resist taking the opportunity. So if I come here and I go to beat, and the urge is overwhelming to exploit the mistake I've made, and that's fine because again I know what it is. So if I'm here, I'm waiting for it to land. So I've done my beat and missed, but I've stopped. As soon as it's coming, I'm going to use the false edge to beat that out of the way and come in with my own attack. So by using beats, feints, and invitations, I can get around my opponent's point. Of course, ultimately what I want to do is combine all of these together. So I might decide that I'm going to feign, wait for him to parry, and then come in with a beat to make sure he's really offline because I want that elbow. It could be that I come in with a beat, knowing he's going to, if I come in with a beat, knowing he's going to overcompensate, and therefore come in on the side that he overcompensates for, so using a beat as a feint. So as I combine these, this adds a whole different element to the fighting. I'm aware that's probably been quite a long one to try and go through all those 3 points, but if you understand those 3 things, you can start to work around your opponent. Obviously, you don't want to do them every strike, because they're tricks, and if you do a trick all the time, people expect a trick. So you kind of pepper them in every so often, that then the strikes are going to get through in the middle of the rally of the back and forth that comes as normal. Anyway, hope that made sense, and we'll catch up with you again next week. Okay, take care.